This is ATL Day Ones, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. And it starts now.
Welcome into ATL Day Ones with Jarvis and Tenitra, but we don't have Tenitra today. That face you see over there is 11 Alive superstar Maria Martin. She's going to be sitting in for Tenitra today. And Maria, I just want to start off by saying thank you for sitting in with us and welcome to ATL Day Ones.
I am so honored that you asked me to fill in for the great and wonderful and talented Tenitra. I'm not Tenitra, but we're going to try to at least fill the gap for today. I'm really, really grateful that you asked me to be on.
Yeah, appreciate it. And we are really grateful to you, the viewer, for, checking out ATL Day Ones. We ask that you continue to like and subscribe to our YouTube page. And if you are, on the audio side as well, we're all on all platforms, and you can find us there as well. First off, Maria, I know you haven't had a chance to talk about it on our show, and I'm sure you have touched on it, but, the Atlanta Falcons extend Grady Jarrett 3 years for about $51 million. It's going to turn out to be up to $17 million annually. First off, what do you think when you see that Grady Jarrett is going to be a Falcon for the next few years?
Well, I think my first reaction on Twitter was this Falcons front office is doing work. Good job. I really thought this was fantastic because Grady was kind of the last piece that was looming over this front office's head, right? Because we saw what they did with Matt Ryan. They get rid of him. They restructure a couple deals. And really, this front office was handed a cap situation that was horrible. And they've done the best that they can with that. And now they're under the cap. And by restructuring Grady's deal, by giving him an extension, by making sure that they're putting themselves in a better position financially, but also keeping a key piece to their defense, I think this is fantastic. He's been around since 2015. He's a kid that's from Conyers. He's getting to stay home in the organization that drafted him, which I think he really wanted to do initially. And I don't think that he would have even entertained this conversation had he not have believed in Terry Fontenot and Arthur Smith and what they're building and what they're doing. And it's funny because I think his connection between them two and also Dean Pease, the defensive coordinator, has pretty much told us everything that we need to know about him being a veteran and their relationship and how they respect him. So I think by putting Grady in a position, one of the few veterans remaining on this roster right now, and you needed one on defense, right? Because we saw what they did with Jake Matthews on the offensive side of the ball. Well, what about the defense? You're keeping Grady Jarrett. I think it's fantastic. Puts them in a better situation money-wise, even gives Grady a little bit of a better situation, maybe like a tinge cheaper than he may have gotten somewhere else. But this is really going to be his last big deal. He's 29 years old. He's not going to go somewhere and sign something else now at this point. So keeping him here, the team that drafted him, Conyers kid, he loves Atlanta. I love it.
I think you made a really great point when you talk about, the foundation, right? You talk about keeping Jake Matthews around because he was a guy that was around for that Super Bowl run. And you talk about Grady Jarrett, he was around for that Super Bowl run as well. And it was definitely a conversation for him probably being the Super Bowl MVP if they had pulled it out. I'm not going to say the score because I don't repeat the score on this show. We refrain from doing stuff like that on ATL Day Ones, Maria, so I'm not going to go there. But I think that whole foundation piece is something that I think means something. Because Grady is pretty much a straight shooter, right? And both of us have covered him for quite some time, and we kind of understand the type of man that he is. So I think that keeping a guy like that around in the locker room I think is a solid price, and not overpaying necessarily. I think it's a good thing for Terry, and it brings me to this question. From a trust factor, where are you when it comes to Terry Fontenot? Because I know I wasn't satisfied with the first round pick and Drake London. We talked about it on your show, but I think that from then on, I thought it was just something that was just really. I thought he really turned things around going into the draft. So where do you feel like you are from a trust factor?
Well, I will say first and foremost, I'm a woman, so trust comes not very easily for me. So
Right.
we're gonna have to give, a little bit longer for me to trust Terry Fontenot. We're into the second year now with him being a part of this Falcons organization, but so far so good, and I'll put it at that. That doesn't mean I
Yes.
necessarily trust him completely, and I think you and I have talked about this on my show, but here I want everyone to know that this draft was successful, in my opinion, for the Falcons. Obviously, we're going to see the fruits of that labor, hopefully, here in the next year or two. But they're building, we keep going back to foundation, they're building the pieces of a foundation, and it proves to me that they're serious about going somewhere with this team. This draft tells me that they are very serious about taking this team to the next level. They have a plan in place. And given what they were handed when they took the jobs to come to Atlanta, this is honestly, in my opinion, night and day. They were in a terrible situation. Their roster was just a hodgepodge of guys, and they're getting rid of some of these guys where people are saying, oh, you get rid of Matt Ryan, that sucks, and all of these guys that have a lot of experience, but they're giving you pieces in free agency, in the draft, that shows that they are putting the pieces in place for Atlanta to be successful. So far, so good. I'm not going to say I totally trust him, but I love where they're at salary cap wise. They're now under it, which is an incredible feat in and of itself. And
Indeed.
they're also maybe going to have a little bit more money now to go out and get another free agent signing now that they've done this with Grady. So I love what they're doing so far. We'll see once the wins start to trickle in, and we'll see how this quarterback situation plays out, because that's obviously a massive piece to your franchise. And that is a huge question mark for the Falcons heading into training camp, heading into the season. That will tell me a lot more about kind of his thought process and how they see building this team.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting. And we're going to talk to Locked On Falcons expert Aaron Freeman coming up in just a few minutes. But before we get there, I want to touch on what happened yesterday. The Atlanta Braves, they get swept in a doubleheader.
Yeah.
And Tenitra and I talked about on the show about how we were so excited. I'm sitting up here like, yes, the Braves are back, baby. Travis d'Arnaud spanking the kids up there in Gotham, and he's doing this thing against his former team, and Austin Riley's going crazy, and Ronald Acuna is back, and then, Charlie Morton goes on the mound and just continues to struggle, and the Braves, they just can't get it together, and they are seriously struggling when it comes to runners in scoring position, and I think that's one of the things that I think that just really killing the Braves right now.
Yeah, I think that that's one of the major pieces. I saw something where, through 18 innings, they got one hit with a runner in scoring position. I mean,
Wow.
it's
Struggling.
suffocating this
Yes.
team. And it's interesting because we've seen them struggle at the plate before. And I think I've heard Snicker say over and over, it's going to take one bat to open the floodgates. Okay, what's
Yes.
that bat? I don't know who it is right now, because Acuna's easing his way in, even though he doesn't want to be eased in. They're easing him in a little bit. He's had, honestly, even if he has like a 1-for-4 appearance at the plate, he's had successful appearances at the plate all the time. It doesn't mean, or often, if it's 1-for-4, you can still have a successful outing at the dish, and he's had a few of those. But at the end of the day, you need runs to come across home plate, and that's not happening for the Braves. And not to mention the fact that Charlie Morton, who is struggling more and more and more with every outing, it's really fascinating because his strikeout count last year was at least higher than it is this year while he was struggling in the beginning of 2021. Now he's struggling. His strikeout count is low. He has no command of the ball. So it's weird. On both sides of the ball, there's so many question marks. I think it's going to take one person. Snit said it, one person to open the floodgates. It's just, who is that going to be? You saw Matt Olson start really, really well with this team. Everyone was very excited. They're like, okay, we knew what he could do defensively, but offensively, we're super stoked about what he can put together. And now he's kind of struggling. So
Yes.
I think there's just a lot of question marks. It's very fascinating. This is a team that, as baseball goes, has ebbs and flows and ups and downs. But they did that last year. It's just this year I'm a little more concerned because I don't know who the leader is. I don't know who that guy is to get this offensive production going. I mean, literally last year, They were leading the majors in OPS with runners in scoring position, and they were second
Total
in the
opposite,
league
right?
with an on-base percentage. And now we're looking at it like they're towards the bottom when it comes to that, and they're 27th in the league right now with a 281 OBP. They're getting on base 28% of the time. It's a head scratcher, seriously. And the fact that they got swept by the Mets is bad in a doubleheader because, like you talked about, Travis d'Arnaud, that was so exciting. Everybody was really excited about them opening the series against the Mets, who are leading the division right now. And then they have to close it out in New York. Right. I don't even want to go there. And the Braves are so far behind at this point.
Come on, man.
Seriously, it's bad. It's early, but still, we don't want to go there. Yeah. But then they don't get a break. They have the Brewers at home. They're going to get 1 day break in between finishing out with the Mets this afternoon, and then they're going to come home and face the Brewers. But they got to figure this out. It's a mess. And hey, one bright spot that has nothing to do with on-base percentage is Kyle Wright, even though he struggled a little bit yesterday in his outing against the Mets.
I like 7 innings though. Right? That was clutch. That was key. I mean, hopefully, you know, with Kyle Wright, you know, going 7 innings, that kind of saved the bullpen. So hopefully this afternoon they can get a win and get at least split the series. It's kind of like what I was hoping coming into the series because they were struggling so much when it comes to runners on base. So I think that, you know, and Anderson is on the mound against Tyler McGill. So we will see if that is the formula for stopping the bleeding, because, you know, getting swept by the Mets, I understand they are off to a really hot start, but I don't buy it. I just don't buy the Mets, and it'll be summertime if they still have this 7-game deficit and the Braves are still in 4th place and sitting at 11-15. You know, all right, okay, I might start to believe it, but I can't believe it right now. All right, but what you're gonna have to believe is Aaron Freeman. He's coming up next. We're Locked On Falcons. We're gonna go all in about the draft. We're gonna get his reaction. We're gonna see if he went on a rant after the Falcons picked Drake London. Let's ask him. That's next on ATL Day Ones with Jarvis Davis with Maria Martin filling in.